Hello, everyone. How's it going? Hopefully, you all are doing well out there and that you're having a good, what day is it? Wednesday. We've been super busy getting things ready for the move. Seems like the never ending story right now. But yeah, so we have been getting things ready for the move. Working on the new Luster collection by Allegory Gallery. I don't know if y'all saw that or not, but we've been having fun kind of experimenting and testing things and getting things ready. So yeah, we've had a busy couple days. Hopefully you all have been well. I thought for today we would do something. I showed a couple of I wanted to say a couple days ago, but it's been probably a week or so or more. I showed how to start one of those bead embroidery pieces for the Wishes and Fishes project that the Beadwork Museum is doing. And I realized that that may be slightly more advanced. I mean, it's not hard, but for somebody who hasn't done this before, it may seem a little bit overwhelming. So I wanted to kind of rewind a little bit and do a little bit more of a simplified version. And then that way, you can kind of like, if you want to try it out, you can kind of dip your toe in and see if you like it. The other thing that I'm going to talk about are some new things that are coming to the website. So, a lot of times with our website, we focus more on, I don't want to say harder to find things, but we focus more on kind of more unique things. So, things that we produce ourselves or lines that we carry that are exclusive to us, or things that I've made or things that William has made or things that we've kind of curated through our travels. And the website is a little bit different than our physical location. Our physical location is more of like your neighborhood bead store, your local bead store, where we have a little bit of everything, and it's got the needles and thread and all that stuff that you need to make your projects. But we don't really carry that stuff on the website. Usually, if you want any of that, you kind of have to special request it by emailing us at info@allegorygallery.com. And usually, generally speaking, since we are a full service bead store, we have what you need and we can hook you up. However, as we're kind of doing things, we're kind of building up the online store, and it's kind of shifting, not a lot, but it's changing a little bit because we are going to have limited hours when we reopen. So we realize that you won't have as much access as before. So we thought it might be nice to incorporate more of the staples that you need when you're making projects, because we don't really have that on the website right now. So for instance, since we've been kind of on a bead embroidery kick, we're going to start offering lacy stiff stuff on our website. And we're also going to offer Fireline, and beading needles, and the E6000. And all of these things are things that you can get in other places, of course. However, if you kind of want us to, want to support us and see us continue on our journey, we would very much appreciate you purchasing things from us, of course, because it keeps the lights on and allows us to continue to offer, entertainment and commentary and free educational opportunities and all that. So I have a couple of folks who are watching. I didn't turn on the Instagram. I needed to have William show me how to do that because I don't know how to use that. Cheryl's watching. Hi, Cheryl. Susan's watching. Hey, Susan. Norma's watching. Hey, Norma. Amanda's watching. Hello, Amanda. So yeah, if you're still watching, Susie, we may need you to watch the cats this weekend because I have an opening that I'm going to be going to in Baltimore, and then maybe I am going to go down to North Carolina. I have to talk to William about the timeline, but if you're available, that would be great. Not to spring it on you, but I have to talk to William, and then we'll chat with you. All right. So we've been super busy. If you did not see, we have a new tutorial by Jen. She did our Saturday morning tutorial that debuted this past Saturday on how to make these really cool wire head pins. Susie says, I'm available. Just let me know. Oh, good. Facebook user says, hi from sunny Arizona. Hello from sunny Arizona. So we've been super busy. They filmed 2 tutorials last week because she's away this week. So William is going to work on that and debut that on Saturday. I'm not 100%. I think he mentioned what it was, but I'm not 100% sure. But that's on schedule to debut on Saturday. And we also, if you didn't see yesterday, we debuted the Luster collection, which is really cool. We have been working in the studio at Star Cottage Studio and producing our own line of kind of pendants that we've been using. I feel like a lot of the things I do and that William does with me, we're merging stuff that we already do and taking things that we already have experience with and kind of growing and expanding on those things. So if you've been following along, we've been doing enamel for a couple of years now. I've been doing enamel for a while, but I used to do more of the immersion technique through Barbara Lewis because when I started getting interested in enameling, we didn't have really the setup to do that. And so I could get a MAP gas canister and set that up. So that was a very approachable way of getting into enameling. And then when that got saturated and everybody was doing it and became really popular, I kind of eased up off of it because I wanted to have more control. And with torch fired enameling, it's a little bit it's a little harder, or at least at that time it was harder because there wasn't a ton of resources on the internet. So you had her book or took a workshop from her, and that was kind of like it at that time period. I mean, there was a couple of things going on, but not like nowadays. If you look up torch fire enameling, there's like a ton of stuff that comes up. But at that time, there wasn't a whole lot readily accessible. So I kind of eased up off of it and took a break. And then during the pandemic, I kind of had this realization that I wanted to go back and take classes and do things. And it kind of deepened my relationship with metal. And then so I started taking classes at places like Contemporary Craft in Pittsburgh. And I took a really wonderful introductory course with Joe Polari. And he kind of reignited that interest. And I had been wanting to think about how I can embellish my metal surfaces. And that's really something that has been important to me for a very long time, and kind of merging again my painting background and my background as a fine artist and my metalworking. So that was kind of like I feel like with my process, it's like a Ouroboros where I'm continually revisiting things that I've done before and taking what I've done before and adding the stuff what I've learned new and kind of revisiting those things and hopefully making it kind of fresh and new. And all of you out there who are very generous in our community have helped support that growth, and you are helping an artist, live his best life. So thank you. So anyway, so I got into enameling, and again, and we had the laser, but I was always kind of afraid to put the enamels in the laser because when you get the laser, depending on what kind of laser you get, they're rated for certain things. So, like the higher fiber lasers are really expensive, and we could not afford one of those. So we got kind of the home model, which it took 3 years to get because we initially got it through a crowdsource funding, but eventually it came, and we kind of really dug deep into what they had offered. So, like wood and acrylic and things like that. But now it's starting to come out more where people are using their lasers for other things like engraving enamel, which is something that I've been super interested in. But at the time, there again wasn't that readily accessible information. So you had to like spend lots of time perfecting the settings and lots of time kind of troubleshooting stuff. And there's a lot of wasted material. And I think I just also needed to build up my confidence. Sometimes when you're doing something new for the first time, it can be a little overwhelming. And so we started experimenting with that just recently within the past couple weeks, and I'm super excited. We've gone through a lot of different tests. So not only with the lusters, but just in the general usage of the laser on enamel. And so we've been perfecting our settings and getting kind of the conditions optimally set up for what we're trying to do, which I think is super important, because if you don't have the right conditions, and it's kind of like you're a mad scientist or like a scientist, and you have to like approach things in a very kind of controlled way, which sounds very strange for somebody like me who kind of um, just kind of does stuff. Um, but like for us, you have to like have a control, and then you can like, another thing that's important is keeping track and keeping records, which I'm also not super great about all the time, especially when I'm in the thick of it and like experimenting. Like I'm not a person who uses recipes. I will kind of like glance and like do a scan a recipe and then kind of like take the gleanings of it and then like do my own thing. And it's kind of super frustrating because sometimes people will be like, "Oh, do you have a recipe for that thing that you shared on Facebook? It looked really good." And then I'm like, "No, I don't really use recipes." And then that's kind of frustrating. But anyway, so luckily William is around and he's been helping me be more mindful about like recording our successes and our failures and kind of figuring out the ins and outs of this process, which has been really kind of rewarding, because before we didn't really get a chance to spend a whole lot of time together. Generally speaking, I work a lot at night and he works in the day. So we would have those like brief crossovers where we're having dinner and watching TV. But that's about it, We don't have a whole lot of interaction besides that. So as we were kind of embracing this new change for us, and what I mean by the new changes, if you didn't know, we're moving our store. We're in the middle of the process of moving our store from Ligonier to Johnstown. And when we do so, we're going to have limited hours to begin with. So we'll be open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Those were kind of like the busy days here in town. So we figured we'd keep the busiest days. The days that were the slowest are all the other days. So we decided that we wouldn't be open for the slow days, And hopefully if it picks up and we start making lots of money, then, we'll hire extra people and, get that kind of situated. But for the time being, we're just kind of going to do the limited schedule. But what that also means is that we'll have more time to work together at the cottage. So that's really exciting for me because a lot of times I only I can only do so much. So um, so having William there also will help me be able to make more things and get help to make things. And I also feel like he's trying new things and experimenting, and he has a different perspective. He's much more of a procedural person who has like steps to do stuff. I'm more of a kind of like experiment and I don't want to say more wild because I don't necessarily think of myself as wild, but um, you know, I have a much more organic approach. Like when we're talking, he has a very like boom, 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 like set linear kind of train of thought. And mine is a little bit more like, oh, then I thought of this, and then I thought of this, and then I thought of this. So there you go. Michelle's watching. Hi, Michelle. Sandra's watching. Hey, Sandra. So yeah, so we've been working on different new things to put in the online store. If you did not see last night's video, we were going to do this on Monday, but then we got held up in eclipse traffic. So unfortunately, we didn't do it on Monday. So we did it on yesterday, which is Tuesday. And yeah, so if you go to the website, a lot of the luster pendants are available. And those are at allegorygallery.com. We currently have 3 designs available for purchase, and we're working on more designs. Now, when I say that we're working on more designs, some of the designs are going to be old designs that we have kind of transferred for this process. However, not all designs work well with this process. Like some of it, like the laser settings, if it's too black in the drawings, because they're based off of my original drawings, if it's too black, it will burn through the enamel and punch a hole through it. So that's less than ideal. So some of the drawings we've had to modify, and then also we've also been revisiting some of the drawings that were not ideal for use with the wood. What happens is for the wood process, we put like a masking tape. It's like a film that prevents the wood from getting scorched. However, if you have really fine lines, sometimes it will just engrave the the uh, the masking film, and it won't actually go into the wood surface. And then sometimes if you have too many lines, it can scorch the wood and kind of make it look like burnt charcoal. And it's like that fine line. You do want some scorching because that's how the laser kind of leaves the impression on whatever surface that you're making. However, too much and it's not ideal. So some of those designs we weren't able to do because they were like burning up the wood, or they were real faint and you really couldn't tell. Like the detail would just be erased. So you only got like the thickest and darkest lines. And that's like, not necessarily ideal. So we've been kind of going back and looking at these things and testing them out. So there's a lot of testing. And if you didn't see last night, we also did a sample sale of some of the tests that we did. And those are one-offs, or, 2-offs maybe, depending on what we got into. Like some of them I made in the idea that I was going to make them for earrings. And so if you didn't see that, you can watch the replay. I can let you know also, I think I have the spreadsheet where William said which ones were available. So maybe I'll go through that real quick. But for tonight, we're going to do bead embroidery, and it's kind of like the simplest, easiest projects. Because I don't want people to get overwhelmed. I think sometimes it's easy to get overwhelmed, and then you just don't do it. So we're gonna go real easy, real basic, and show you kind of hang out and make some things. And yeah. All right. So let's turn the camera around and yeah, let's do that. Oh, be sure to like and share our videos. That's super helpful. If you didn't get a chance to do that, it definitely helps boost the signal. I know with me, it's a little bit more meandering, and I do a lot of like free associating. All right. Okay, so let me see. Before we start, I'll do a recap of what we sold. Let me see if I can pull this up because I'm not the most tech savvy person. I don't know if y'all could tell that or not. And I shouldn't say that because I used to be more tech savvy. However, it's like a use it or lose it thing. If you don't use it, then it's not going to be right up there. Oh, we also named the colors. So this is called Cherokee Purple. And you're going to be like, what? That's not purple. Kind of. But the reason why we called this one Cherokee Purple is because there's a tomato variety named Cherokee Purple. And it's kind of a reddish green tomato. And this color has kind of a reddish green, like it has an interference green, which makes it look green in some lights, but then it's kind of this kind of warm, kind of earthy reddish color in the other light. That's also got a hint of purple. So that's what this one's called. It's called Cherokee Purple. This one, I love this one. We called it Inca Gold. And if you know Chrissy Friesen, she does a technique where she lays down 24 karat gold leaf onto polymer and then scratches away in sgraffito. And this has that look. It has that 24 karat gold kind of luster, which I think is really beautiful. This one we call Venetian Red. And I don't know if y'all know this or not, but I have a background in painting and a little bit in art history. I know it was never really official, but I used to audit a bunch of art history classes. And when I was in high school, one of my friends was going to the local university, and I used to sneak into those art history classes because I would go because I thought that was fun. Anyways, it was kind of embarrassing because sometimes I would know the answers and like the college students who were older than me didn't. And then I was like, I don't know. I think some of the teachers thought I was a student there. Anyway, so the thing about Venetian red is that color is the color that they would use for their underpaintings, and that was really good for flesh tones. So like if you're building up color and you're building up washes of color or kind of oil layers of translucent glazes, it's helpful to have an underneath color which will kind of tint the way that color appears. So if you want something to be kind of cold, you would paint it with like a blue, a cooler color blue. If you want something to appear warmer, you would do an undercoat of like a warmer color. So like if you're gonna do gold leaf, what I would recommend is kind of paint out your design in like a red or orange or something like that, and then apply the gold leaf on top of that because it will give it a warmth to it wherever there's any kind of like cracks or creases or whatever. But anyway, so that is where that color name comes from, Venetian red. This one we call English ivy, which is trying to come into the cottage. I don't know how. I think somebody had a house plant and they put it outside, and then now it's like trying to take over the universe. So there you go. Michelle says it looks like iridescent gunmetal. Yeah, I could see that. And then this one, let me see which one. This one we called French lilac. And it's kind of blue in some lights, silver in other lights, and slightly purple in other lights. So, yeah, that's the thing that's tricky about kind of interference colors is that depending on how you photograph them, it can be a little bit tricky in the lighting with that. Anyway, so that's French lilac, and then this is Phoenician purple. And I really love this color. It's like a true purple. And, it's kind of interesting. I really love colors and I love color names, which is should come as no surprise. But there are a lot of really wonderful books. There's a book called Color by Victoria Finlay. And I really enjoyed it. And it's part travel guide and or travel log and part natural history. And she goes through and travels all over the world in search of how to make these colors and the origins of those colors. So I thought that was really fascinating. And I just recently listened to it again and for a book club that I'm in. And it was nice because I picked up stuff that I didn't catch the first time. So it was fun. Anyway, so Venetian purple, and those are available on the website. Now, one of the things that I did last night was I made a sample of what this looks like. This is the French lilac. Let me turn on the light. I don't know if that makes it better or not. But this is the French lilac that I did. And then, so I made this kind of like chain because I didn't have the right size chain, but I had jump rings. So I just strung the jump rings together. And then I had a bunch of these really cool, super iridescent pearls, freshwater pearls. So I added those. And then I had some mermaid glass that has that kind of iridescence and shine to it. And then these ones are called cat's eye, and those are kind of like fiber optic plastic, basically. And then what else do I have in there? Oh, these ones. So these are color change, and depending on the light, they either look blue or they look purple. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to capture it on the video, but yeah. So I don't know if y'all can see that. But I made them on dangles so they would move a lot and kind of have that charm bracelet effect or like cha-cha bracelet. I used to make these all the time. That's probably what I was most known for back in the day when I used to write for books and magazines, was this kind of making millions of these wire wrap dangles. But I don't really do that as much. So I thought that was fun. And then I just had this and threw that on there, attached it with some jump rings. And I thought that those iridescent qualities would play into this. See that? I don't know if you can see that. So I made this. I think it turned out pretty good. I liked it. I must be really into kind of like periwinkles and purples and stuff. But anyway, so I made this sample to show how these can look. If you do get any of our luster pendants and you make something with it, please post it and tag us if you're not posting it in the group at the Allegory Gallery Bead Challenge. Let me put that up. The Allegory Gallery Design Challenge group on Facebook. That's pretty much the place that we post stuff the most. And we'd love to see what you make with these. And we might feature your design in one of our social media platforms. So we'll help spread the word. Of course, we'll give you credit, so it's not like we're just, vampiring off your content. But hopefully the rising tide raises all boats, We have a substantial following. I mean, not like some people, but more than none, less than millions, more than two. And yeah, we can help promote you as well. So I think that's fun. Anyways, let me get back to this. What do y'all think? You don't like that? I don't know. All right, so I'm gonna go real quick. Oh, I also showed this, so I'll get back into this in a second. But so William asked me to show the ones that didn't get claimed last night. So we had quite a few that didn't get claimed. One of the ones that didn't get claimed was LP1. It's $20, and it is this hellebore charm or pendant. And I don't know why this one didn't get snapped up. I really like it. This is also, I should mention that these are acid etched, so there's this lovely kind of matte finish, which I'm a smitten kitten with that finish, but I do that finish primarily because I use it for when I draw on them, I do graphite. So LP1 is $20, and that is available. If you are interested in that, you can email us at info@allegorygallery.com, and William will invoice you. The other one that didn't get claimed was LP4. That one's $20 also. Now this one, the eye is a little bit different. This is how I originally drew it. And then I like the blacked out eye more. So I ended up changing that drawing. So this one is available as well. If you're interested in this, send us an email at info@allegorygallery.com. Now, I know that some of y'all have seen these already, and you may be like, well, what is he doing? We already saw that business. But I thought it might be fun to do a little recap just in case you missed it. This one is LP6, $20 also. William prefers this one. I like the other one, but William likes this one. And this one is a little bit easier to see, but it's not as detailed. So it's always a fine line between detail and kind of the instant recognizability. So this is LP6, $20. That's available. Now, if you did get that something last night, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It helps us make more things. I think also we're going to start doing, as we're also doing we're doing the luster line, but I think we're also going to do some kind of one-offs too, some more kind of funky finishes and trying to experiment with different things and kind of maybe do some freehand drawings and see how that goes. So if there's anything that you're interested in seeing that you didn't see last night, or if you don't see tonight, then let me know in the comments. And, I can't make any guarantees or promises, because sometimes things align with my sensibilities and sometimes they don't. Like somebody was like, what if you did like a badger playing lacrosse? And I was like, well, I don't really have a connection to lacrosse. So that seems like a project for somebody else. But anyway, so this is LP9. It's only $12 and they're super, they're detailed. I think you can almost see that kind of how there's this almost like a crystallization that happens when the glass gets melted with a laser, which I think is kind of really beautiful. It's real subtle. Can you see it? That sparkle, especially in the iris. I mean, you're gonna see my nails all. Um, my nails are not as nice as they could be, but I do a lot of metal smithing, and I try to take care of my hands, but it happens. Now, another one that didn't get claimed last night is LP10. That one's also $12. It's got a really lovely kind of papery ivory color. So that almost looks, this would be great in kind of, one of these kind of cha-cha necklaces where you have a bunch of different things. I think it'd be cool to have like milagros and different eyes, and maybe we have that evil eye mix, the Turkish one, which I think that would be really cool. Keep all that bad juju away. And also available is LP11. I guess y'all didn't like these eyes. This one is like the one that we just showed, so I'm not going to show it too much. But that one's also available if you're interested. William suggested I do this because sometimes people don't know what's left. LP12 is also, that's another one of those. I'm not going to even show it. It doesn't even get airtime, y'all. Hardly, because I already showed. This is from. Oh, this one didn't get claimed. LP13, this little bird. It's a small one. So I think that's really charming. LOL, charming. All right. So that one didn't get claimed either. And then let's see. 14 got claimed. Let's see. 19 is up next. This one. Oh, I'm surprised this one didn't get claimed. So this is LP19, only $12. And this is a little kitty. It looks kind of like Gertie. And she's got real big expressive eyes and little tiny body. But that one didn't get claimed. LP19, $12. And like I said, if you're interested in that, email us at info@allegorygallery.com. All right. And let's see, 24 did not get claimed. A lot of these ones are kind of light, so I can understand why they did not get picked. So that's a bird in flight over clouds. I might redo this design because I really like it. And Jermaine says, I got 2 of the little ones last night for use of earrings. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And so I might redo this one and darken the lines, or maybe just do it on the white, because sometimes the blue, depending on the drawing, it doesn't necessarily do it as deeply. So these are a little bit lighter. I wonder if I can't take and make these darker somehow. I bet I could. The thing is that this is an etched surface, and so when you etch surfaces and then you do stuff like you put color on it and stuff in the recesses, sometimes the tricksy part is that it will want to soak up into those matte areas, and it's hard to get it off of the mat thing. Keep that in mind because that's something that we're going to talk about in just a second. So let's see. LP 25 didn't get picked. That's that one again. LP 26 didn't get picked. And LP 27. So this one, I'm gonna redo this one because I love honeybees, and William actually had a video today showing some honeybees and some dandelions today, and I thought that was really cool. So I'm gonna redo that design, and then LP 28, another of the honeybee, and then maybe I'll do this on kind of like a goldenrod color. And I think that might be really pretty. Or maybe we'll do it on the Inca Gold. What do you think about that? Anyways, so we looked at that last night. Those are the ones that didn't get claimed. So if you're interested in that, in any of the ones I just showed, email us at info@allegorygallery.com. All right, so let's get down to this bead embroidery. So if you didn't see, this is a project that I did for the Bead Museum. So they do an annual project where they have different people from the bead world submit things to help fundraise for them. Last year it was stars. This year it's going to be fishes. It's called Wishes and Fishes is their theme. And so I made this, and I used a black light, the glow in the dark beads, and I also showed how to put down some glow in the dark with this stuff from Smooth On called Glowworm. And that way, if you have any transparent beads, it will show through. And, I already showed this, so I'm not going to spend too much time. But I think that's cool. Anyway, so we made this, and I realized that this is probably maybe a little bit more advanced than people want. Or if you're just starting out and you've never done this, it may seem a little bit overwhelming. So we're going to break it down easy peasy style and as easy as possible. And yeah, so this is what I made before. And just so you know, we're going to have Lacy Stiff Stuff available. We're going to sell it by the sheet. And we're going to sell it by 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And I have black. And I don't have prices for this yet, but those will be on the website. Maybe, I don't know when William gets back, if he's going to want to do it tonight or tomorrow. I don't know how to do the website, so we have to wait for William because I don't know how to do that. And then we're also having it in the same size, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And it's going to be in white. So this is the Lacy Stiff Stuff. And then they have a newish kind of product. And I thought that it would be really cool to offer that. So the newer, I don't know how new is new, but they have these circles. So if you want to do, these are 3.5 inches across. And if you wanted to do like a big piece and you don't want, Norma says, I like the fish. I missed the live where you started it. I think it's called beaded dish, but it's actually fish because autocorrect wanted me to make a dish, not a fish. So if you look for that, then you'll see that. So this is a relatively new thing, and it's these circles. So you don't even have to trim it. It already comes done. It is kind of grande size, so You know, it may not be for everybody, but I think it's also cool because if you don't want to trim something, then you don't have to. So that's going to be available on the website. The other thing that's really cool is we're going to offer these little E6000s. Now, we're not going to be able to ship these internationally, so just keep that in mind. If you live in a country that is not the United States, we can't ship this there. Um, and I don't know why. I don't know what's up with it but apparently we're not allowed to ship it across internationally. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that we're going to have is these little cute petite rolls of fire lime. So I know sometimes if you're just going to experiment with something or you just need something for one project, you don't need the King Daddy roll, which like I use this size roll 125 yards. You're not going to necessarily need that if you're just trying it out for the first time and you just want to experiment something. So we're going to sell these petite rolls, and these are 15 yards, which is still quite a lot. And those will be available in smoke and in crystal, I believe. And that is the two main colors that you'll use. I Most people I know use just smoke, but sometimes when I'm doing the glow in the dark stuff, I use the clear because usually they're kind of transparent, the beads, and I don't necessarily always want the thread to show. So I use the crystal for that. But we're gonna have this also available on the website maybe tonight or tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled for that. All right. So for today's project, I'm actually going to use some of these laser engraved mother of pearl pieces that we made recently. Um, and if you're interested in these, let us know. We don't have holes in these, and I'm not really interested in drilling these because it's really fragile. And there's a lot of breakage that can happen. So I have these and I was just going to set them in metal. But I'm going to do, I think, that bead embroidery tutorial on these. Jermaine says, I usually use the crystal because I don't like how the black from the smoke gets on my fingers. So that is a thing. The black does come off. They dye the micro thermally bonded thread, and sometimes that can come off on your fingers. But just wash your hands after, and it's fine. It doesn't. And also, if you are concerned about that, you can take a little bit of brown paper bag and then fold it over and then run your thread through it, and it will take off the excess. So if you're worried about that like coming off later on like your clothes or something, then that's something that you can also do to take off some of the excess dye. So I've got three options. Which one should we do? Should we do the green man? Kay says hello. Hi, Kay. Should we do the green man? A, the kind of moon face. B, or the floral. C. Kay says, my goodies arrived today and I am in love. Oh, good. I'm glad you like everything. That makes me happy. Amy is watching. She says B. Michelle says, I usually use crystal and fireline, but I use multiple colors and other threads. I like the fireline. It's kind of my go-to because I like stuff that has a little bit more structure. However, if I'm doing stuff that I need more of a drape to, I'll use Nymo. And that comes in like an infinity of colors, so you can match your project. Norma says B. Kay says A. Michelle says A. Dale, hey Dale. He says A. Jermaine says A. So let's do the green man. How about that? All right. So maybe we'll do both. Nobody liked this floral one. I like this floral one, but I based this off of a Japanese fabric textile. It's not exact, but I think it's cool. I did a color change. I don't know if you can see that or not. Jermaine says, I always use Fireline unless I'm doing fringe earrings. You know, I use Fireline for almost everything nowadays, but if I want, like if I'm making a peyote stitch, kind of a fabric, I use Nymo because it's not as stiff, and so you get more. It feels more like fabric, in my opinion. All right. So, anyways, let's try doing both. So, the first thing we're going to do, these are mother of pearl. And if you feel the backs, it's slick. All right. It's slick. So, that's not ideal. So, first thing I'm going to do, so I don't make a mess, I'm going to be like, you got my thing. These are all like bills. So, y'all don't want to see that. Okay. So, I'll put a piece of paper down. And you can use, this is a file. This is a Swiss pattern needle file. But you can also use sandpaper. And what you do is you take the back. Amy says 1G works well for drapery pieces like fringe. And Jermaine says, I love the floral one. And Michelle says, Wildfire also comes in other colors too. Yeah. So Wildfire and Fireline are basically the same thing, just different sellers. So I'm just going to scuff up the back. Normally in metalsmithing, you go in one direction, but I don't really care because this is not a metal piece. It does fill up your file pretty quick, but I also have a file cleaner, so I can go and do that. So what I'm doing is I'm scuffing up the back, and you're going to be like, why the heck is he doing that? And the reason why I'm doing that is because it's creating a tooth, and I need that. I mean, I don't necessarily need it, but it helps. So whenever you're creating something where you're going to stick stuff together, it's important to create a tooth on your piece because that will help with the adhesion. Sometimes if you have a slick surface and you try to like glue something, it'll just peel right off, and that's less than ideal. Now the other option is I have this my favorite is maroon scrubby pad. You can get these in the automotive department section for cars. And that also will create a very fine tooth. If I don't want something to be super shiny with like my metal smithing stuff, I'll hit it with this and it will give it a beautiful kind of satin finish, which is one of my favorites. It also makes it way easier to photograph. Sometimes if you have too shiny of a surface, it's hard to photograph. So what I'll do is, so I've scuffed this one up pretty good. I'll do one side and then, okay, see how there's like a shiny? It's still shiny, except for this like ring. See that ring of scuff marks? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm only going to do half of it. Because you may be thinking, what the heck is that going to even do? That's not going to do nothing. But it actually does stuff. Actually, for real. For real. I'm not playing. Okay, look at the difference. Shiny, matte. Shiny, matte. Now, this is kind of a tricksy one because it is mother of pearl, so it does have that, but that kind of glow. So I'm going to do both sides now, and I'm just going to scrub the heck out of that. And what that's going to do is it's going to provide a nice little tooth. And then if you're really particular, you need to wipe that off and get nice and clean. So if you have isopropyl alcohol, that's wonderful. You just don't want a bunch of grit and dust and dirt, because if you have a bunch of dust, that's going to affect the way that the glue will stick. And you'd be like, glue? What the heck? Glue? Yeah, we're going to use some glue. All right. So this glue is the one that I use to attach my pieces. Let me see. I don't necessarily want to use up my... All right, I'll put that. I'm also working on another one to see if I like that. I don't know. We'll see if I actually finish that. So I've got this face. I'll do that. I'll do this. Whoop. That one, I must have knocked out some of the green on that. I'll fix that later. But yeah, so I've got these two. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just trim this. And all right, I'm going to get this glue. And when you get this fresh, it's going to have that metal. So you take the end, this got a little pointy thing in the end, and you just twist that, and it creates a hole. Whoop, and that's where the glue comes out. Now, I'm gonna warn you: do not squeeze with all your might because it will just keep going and going and going. So, also this stuff stinks. So if you have a window that's open, that's good. So I like to get these little tiny bottles, because I used to get the great big grande King Daddy size, and the issue with that is that by the time you get to the bottom of it, it would be like so hard and crusty, and you would just like be so hard. All right, so I'm just going to use the tip of this to kind of smear this around. I don't want glue to squirt out from the sides. So I'm just going to put this like so. I've got this. It's got the glue on the back. And then I'm going to kind of guesstimate, precisely eyeball this to be the middle-ish of the piece of Lacey's stiff stuff. And lay it down and gently press it. And then more firmly adhere it. Amy says, not advised to use that if you have birds. Yeah, so be careful because this does stink. And if you have anything that's like sensitive, then don't do it. Now, the glue, I feel like it helps, but it's not the primary mode of adhesion. The beads are what's going to hold it. So just keep that in mind. All right. I have to fix his mustache later. Now I'm going to put this, make sure it's on nice and tight so it don't dry out. You know how sometimes people use their Sharpie and then it dries out? That drives me crazy. That's one of my pet peeves. Put the cap on tight. And then you're going to hold that in place like that. And then generally speaking, this sets up pretty quick. I'm going to say like maybe 15 minutes or so. But since we're going to cook with the gas tonight, I'm just not going to mess around too hard with it. All right. So I've got these. Michelle said the small tubes are perfect. Yeah, I like them because then if you don't get all the goodie out the tube when you need it, then it's okay. You know, you don't feel like you wasted a whole like $16 tube, industrial size tube of E6000. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off one wingspan of this Fireline. I have the King Daddy roll, but if you order it from us, you're gonna get the little baby roll. So, and I know, like, I'm sure you can find this at other places and big box stores, but like I said, if you want to help support your friendly local neighborhood bead store and make sure that William and I don't eat ramen every night, then and that's what we can do. All right. So I've got this. I've got a needle. Oh, we're also gonna have needles that we're gonna put online. I'm gonna show you these. These are old needles, and these are the good ones. So I've got these. These are a size 12 beading needle. These are old ones, y'all. So these are the English needles. So they don't, some of the Chinese ones just break when you look at them. But these ones should last a good long time. And so you get that. And then we also have them we'll also have them online. And they will be the same size. I was going to be like, oh, different size. No, it's the same. And I love these. So I hoarded them. Anyways, those will be online. All right. So I've threaded my needle. This is the smoke colored. So I'm going to create a little knot here. And I'm going to do a surgeon's knot. So that means you go through once and then you go through again. And basically it just creates a sturdy knot. And then it makes a little bit of a bigger knot. And I'm going to make another knot. And I'm going to kind of eyeball it so that it just bulks up that knot so it doesn't pull through. Michelle said that was a lot of needles. Yeah, I know. I found a source where this bead weaving artist, she was unfortunately is retired now. And she used to teach classes and make kits and stuff. And so she had a bunch of these packs, these grande size packs of the old needles. And so I got them. And I'm just going to create that knot so it doesn't come loose. And see, there you go. A little booger. That's fine. So that one will help it so it doesn't pull through the lacy stiff stuff. And I'm going to very carefully find my needle. We're going to pretend like this is dry. And then I'm going to use this. The nice thing about the white is you can kind of see through it. The black, you can't really see through it as well. So you just kind of have to live with it. But the white is nice because you can, in the certain light, you can kind of see through it. So then you can kind of really gauge that. So I'm not going to go right up next to my piece. It's going to be a little bit out. I'm going to pass my needle through like so. And then you're going to have this. And then I need to pick some colors. What about this? Do you like this? This comes with that one kit, the accursed kit that kept messing up online. That periwinkle. I don't know. Maybe. Let me think about that. Actually, that we're gonna use this. So this is a size 8. And in theory, I have a little triangle. So if you've already got that kit from us, then you should have this already available. If not, then there you go. And we're not going to use that many, but there you go. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 3 of these periwinkle beads. I'm going to pass this down until it gets close to my project. And then I'm going to measure that out like so. And then I'm going to place my needle and pass it through the lacy stiff stuff. And then I'm going to try not to tangle this up, which it's always harder to do this when you're trying to do it on camera. So just know. All right, so I'm going to point to stuff, and we're going to precisely eyeball and guesstimate this business. All right, so I've got these 3 beads here, like so. Boy, that's tangled nation already. Here, got this needle. All right, so the goal is to kind of come up your needle through right here in that space in between those 2 beads. You want to, that's the goal. That's where you're going to want to hit it. So I kind of look at it and then eyeball it. And then also, it's kind of an intuitive thing where I just kind of know how thick the beads are. And so there's that. And then I'm going to pull this up through that and then try not to tangle that up with the tails. And then not make any knots, because if you make any knots, which you just flipping did, y'all. Okay. Well, shoot. Anyway, so if you get a knot, it's not ideal. And then spill the beads everywhere, because that's fun too. But anyway, so you're coming up through the middle of this bead, and then these 2 beads, and then you go through that and pass it through. All right. So, like so. And that's called a back stitch. Is that called back stitch? I call it a back stitch. But anyway, so here you go. You got them 3 beads there. We're going to pick up another 3, and then we're going to do it again. Now, I like to, if you can measure it and get it just right, then that's even better. But I like it if you have an even number of these beads in the end when you're going around. That doesn't always happen. So, but when you're doing it, it creates what's called an even count peyote stitch, which is better. In my mind, I like to do even count. Now, if you get a knot, it's not the end of the world. If you can get it out, it is preferable. All right, so remember, we're guesstimating in between those beads. And then we're gonna go back through that last bead. And then it's gonna make them sit nice and flat. The goal is to have them sit on their sides and be flat on that surface like that. All right. If you do it where you don't want them flat like whole up, we want this to be on the side, on their sides, but flat on their sides. All right. So I'm not going right next to it, but I'm not going super far out. And you can hear it when I hit that knot, because it makes that clicking sound. Maybe you can't hear that. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but there's like a clicking sound when that knot goes. But the thing is about this fire line is that sometimes if you get a knot in this, it's real hard to get out. So I want to have my tension pretty good at this point, but I also don't want to go and do this like Hercules and pull it super tight because if you pull super tight, you're going to distort your lacy stiff stuff. So that is less than ideal. And also, this is going to become peyote stitch. So you're going to have to pull some of these beads up. And you'll see what I mean when we get around to the other side of this. So this is the point where we kind of just hang out and talk because I'm just going to repeat this until I go all the way around. So how was y'all's weekend? I know I saw some of you online yesterday when we did the laser engraved pieces, but I didn't see everybody. So did you have a good weekend? Did you see the eclipse? Michelle says, can you bead embroidery without the lacy stiff stuff? Yeah, you can. However, this makes it real easy. The one thing that's nice about this is that it is stiff. So the nice thing about that is it holds its shape. Sometimes if you don't have that, you have to use an embroidery hoop to hold your thread or your whatever you're using as your substrate. So that can be not ideal. I can show you one that I did. So this is not this is more like a painterly style one. And so this is canvas. So here's the thing. You have to treat this and soak it up with matte medium. And I did that over here. The thing is that it makes it real stiff to go through sometimes. But the thing about this is it has a weave and not like hair extension kind of weave, but it has a weave with the warp and the weft stuff. See this edge here? And when you're on the edge here and you're trying to cut your project off, sometimes those beads can come off. So the nice thing about this lacy stiff stuff is that it doesn't have a weave like this. So you don't have to worry about having stitches fall off. But you can use other materials. You just have to treat them so that it doesn't come apart. So that the matte medium, you can also use this stuff that's like a fabric glue. That's like I think it's called GAC 300 or something like that. It's also from Golden, and you can use that. It's like a fabric medium, and it stays pliable. So sometimes if you wait too long and you really dunk the heck out of it, it makes it near impossible to get your needle through. So just keep that in mind. The thing about this is that I don't, when I do stuff like this, I don't use a hoop, and it's sometimes hard because you can tell it gets real kind of wavy gravy back here. So yeah, I should finish this one day because that would be nice, I think. And then also before I finish, when I do finish this and get all that stuff in, then I take and put white glue in the back, and that also helps keep the stitches in place. And then what I also do is I'll take like a ruler or whatever and use that to kind of outline where the stitches are so I don't accidentally cut the stitches. So, um, so yeah. So you can do it without the lacy stiff stuff. However, it makes their life so much easier. Let me tell you, it does. Michelle says, "Wow." And the way that I do those, I don't use a pattern. I just kind of sketch on the canvas and then go about. I have like it looks like a mess, but it's got all these different seed beads just dumped in there, and I kind of pick up the colors that way. And it's kind of like my painter's palette. And so I don't have them all laid out. I know some people, their brains don't work like that, so um, it's not ideal for that for them to do it that way. I also saw where somebody took a paint palette, like watercolor paint palette, and then they used that to they emptied out the little colors, and then they used that and put beads in different colors like that, and then they organized their beads like that so that it was like a painter's palette, which I thought was real clever. Boy, I can't wait till I get past that knot. I'm coming up soon. It's going to be a beautiful time when that knot gets worked in there, because every time it clicks. Um, Michelle says, I did embroidery as a kid. My grandmother taught me, but I have long forgotten how. Yeah, I don't do a lot of the fancy stuff. I love embroidery, but I'm not really good at it. Admit it. Um, and there's like different stitches that you can learn and knots and things like that. And it's really cool, but you know, only so much time in the day, y'all. All right. So did anybody see the eclipse? I loved it. At first I wasn't like is I wasn't like super excited, I guess. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I was like a 6. I was like excited mostly to see my sister Sheila. We went to Cleveland and had lunch. She made this really good lunch. Um, and so I was excited to see her. And because we don't get to see her very often, even though she doesn't live that far away, which is something that we're going to work on. Um, And then my sister, Sheila, she just got an agent. So she does children's book kind of illustrations. And so that's exciting. She just announced it. So I don't feel bad about sharing about that because sometimes people they're like, don't tell anybody. And I can't tell anybody. But she said it's okay to tell people. So I'm real proud of her. She did a good job. Anyway, so we went, but then when we were there and it was happening, it was really amazing. And it was really kind of surreal. It was one of those things where like all the birds were like chirping, chirping, chirping. There's tons of birds. It was all real loud. They were getting real like kind of in a frenzy. And then and then all of a sudden, when the eclipse started happening, it got real quiet and the temperature dropped. And um, yeah, it was pretty amazing. And it got dark, and then there were bats out. Amy says, traveling is expensive. Michelle says, no, I didn't see it here. My neighbor was outside with my husband the whole time waiting for it, but my area, you couldn't see it. Amy says, neighbor saved the day with extra eclipse glasses. That's good. Yeah. And you know what I realize is that if you are not in an area with totality, even if you get the tiniest sliver of sun, um, you still need your glasses. But when we were in the path of total 100% totality. I don't know how to say that, but we were in the direct path. So when it happens, it's you can't even use your glasses once it happens because it's so dark that the light, you can't see. So we ended up having to take our glasses off when it was like the full time. Misha says, LOL, she texted me asking when it started, and I told her you were outside the whole time. That's funny. All right, so I'm coming up to the end here, and I feel like maybe, let's see if I can squeeze on an extra bead, because I've been working in threes. So let's see if this is going to work. Okay. So I've come to the end of my row. I'm going to try to stab this not on the hole that I started it, but close to it. That was real precise language, I know. And then I'm going to come up between those beads, and there you go. And then I'm just going to go back through, and I'm going to pass it through a couple of these beads. All right. So here's the first row. That only took a million gajillion hours to do. Not really, but there you go. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to count my beads. And so this 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 37. Oh, Boulder Dash. I probably should have just left that one bead off. Oh, wow. It's not going to be the end of the world, but it is easier, I think, if you have an even number. And let me see. I was looking at that. I was like, maybe I can pull that one bead off and just like pull it real tight. I might do that because it makes it a little bit easier. All right, so I'm gonna see how. Man, so the eclipse was cool. We were at 99.4%. It got darker, but not like nighttime. Yeah, it was a weird kind of twilight. I thought it was really beautiful. I was like, if this was like all the time, I would really like that. Oh, hello, William.
Hello, everybody.
I messed up. I knew it was going to happen too. No.
How's everybody doing?
They seem like they're doing all right.
How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'd be better if I didn't mess that up.
Oh no.
All right. So this is how you triage. So if you put the point of your needle and you go back through your hole, you're gonna have trouble times. So use the butt of your needle, and then that helps. I knew it. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna add this one more bead so it's nice and pretty. And then I did it, and then this, and then that. And then the sad times. It's not too bad. So I'm gonna just carefully pry this business up. I was gonna say a different word. Yes, I guess over here in Western Pennsylvania, the weather was not ideal for the eclipse, and so people were like super excited, and it was like super cloudy. So there you go. All right. So I pulled off that one bead. And be like, what the heck? That one bead's gonna do it? Yeah. It makes it harder. So if you have an even number, it's way better. Because then you do even count parity, and then it's like you don't have to do as much hard work. Let's see if I can do this. Is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? Kind of works. All right. It's a little gap too small, but that's fine. All right. What did you make? Show your wares.
Show my wares.
Correct. He just got back from his pottery class.
I did. I did get back from my pottery class.
See, that's not terrible. See, you can barely see it. You can barely see the gap. And people like, because your finger is on top. No. All right. So the next part, I'm going to show you this next part, and then William can show you his pots or whatever he made. I'm going to pick up a bead. See this, how the thread's coming out here? We're going to go and skip that bead. It's bad bead. And then go into through the next one.
Now he's getting sassy.
Yeah, because you're here. Normally, it's like generational trauma.
What did I bring out in you?
The sass.
The sass.
Sass factor 5. All right.
You'll see
You
what
pick
it's
a
like
bead.
in my normal day now.
All right. Anyways, we're doing this. All right. See this? The thread's coming out here. We're going to skip that bead. Go into this one. What? I did that through the camera. I use my eyes through the camera. So this is what it's going to kind of look like as you're doing this. This will not stay here. This is going to go up. But for now, it's going to sit out to the side so it don't get tangled. All right, y'all? So thread's coming out here. We're going to skip that bead. Go into the next one. Did I go through it? I think I went through it. Also, if you use bigger beads, that helps. But it looks nicer when it's smaller beads. So that's a thing. You'll need at least 2 sizes of seed beads, preferably 3. Also, it depends how high of a bezel that you want. Because if you want a real high bezel, like if your cabochon is real high, and then you need to have more beads. If you want this is not really a deep cabochon. It's not real high. So I don't need I don't need like a ton of layers to go around it. All right, so I'm just going to continue that. And William is going to show you what he made.
I only have a few things.
Well,
how much time?
Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
He eclipsed. He did the eclipse. See? You got in the way of the sun. See? Eclipse. In case you missed the eclipse, here we go. Oh. Ah. No.
All right, everybody. So I just got back from pottery class, and I got back those bowls that I was telling everybody about, how I used 3 different glazes, and use that beautiful opal luster. Well, here's what opal luster looks like.
Brown.
It is not anything like what it showed. It's supposed to have some like turquoise in there.
Opal luster? It probably got burnt out.
No, it's supposed to be 5 to 10 firing. She fires on 6. And someone else did the same one, and theirs came out less speckled because my clay was speckled. So they came out just that brown color. But I actually don't mind, because this bowl looks like this on the side. So it actually matches really well.
Yeah, I don't think that looks bad.
No, it looks really good, I think. I was happy with that. I was fine that it didn't come out. The turquoise would have brought out some of the outside kind of blues, but it's fine. I'm happy with it. So this is one of my bulbs. And then this is a slightly larger one that I made. And they are a little set.
Nice.
They fit together. So these are my 2 bowls today.
Good job.
Michelle says it's pretty cool. Thanks. Jermaine says, I think it's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually really happy that it turned out the way it did, but that's not the way it's supposed to turn out. So my teacher, Amy, she's going to start asking some questions about what might have happened or why, or if anyone else is having that same experience. Because I put these coats on pretty thin and the other person put them on a little bit thicker, and we both came out with the same thing. So it's not really an opaly luster, but it looks good with what I used on the outside, which I forget, but there's 3 different glazes on this, the inside and then 2 layered on the outside. And I love how some of these got these little drippy, I love drippy patterns. So some of these got the little drips in them.
Can you look under the black light?
Why?
I want to see if there's an opal. Is it on?
Yeah.
Oh, it's on. Then didn't do anything.
There's some little, I don't know what that is. There's some little spots.
And be like, Amy, we did CSI when we got.
So
That's the opal luster.
Opal luster. So those are my 2 bowls. And then I have, I think 2 other bowls, a spoon stand, and 4 mugs that are going to be bisque fired. She hasn't bisque fired yet. So those are going to be going in soon. And I should have them, I think, for next class to glaze. And then today I made the biggest things I've ever made.
Wow.
They were like, I'll show you all pictures, but it was like maybe twice the size of this bowl. It was like it was like this big.
Wow.
And I'm trying to get my mom's planter pot. So it came out like this, and I made another one. It's slightly smaller, but a little taller. So we have a shrinkage ruler, which shows you like when you want like 4 inches. It needed to be 4 inches for my mom's little pot and a little bit bigger. So it tells you 4 inches at what it's going to be when it shrinks. So if you use that to measure 4 inches, by the time it shrinks down in the kiln and drying, it should be at real 4 inches. So 4 inches doesn't seem like a lot, right? Like even this is like 5 inches, but we wanted it to be much bigger than 4 inches so that the pot could sit down inside of it and have room around it. So that's what I made today, and I'll show pictures of it. But that's what I got back today. And these will go in the online store probably soon too.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good job, William.
Thanks. I have to get pictures. I keep running out of daylight. I have this little grouping of things down here to get pictures of yet.
All right. So this is, I went all the way around, skipping those beads. And then I've got one last bead. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go and skip this bead right here. See that? And then I'm going to go into the next one. And then I'm going to jump up to the next row. All right. So that's this. See this bead right here? See it coming out here? I'm going to jump up. Jump up. Is it this one? All right. So once I've got that, then I'm going to start kind of angling these up. See that? I'm pushing that kind of up. And I'm also going to tug on this as I'm doing it because it will reduce some of the slack once they go up. So you don't want a bunch of thread hanging around. So anyway, so I got that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a decrease because I don't want this bezel to go and cover up the face all day long. So I just want it enough so that it's going to capture it. Because remember, we use glue, so that should help hold that business in place. See why those triangles are so useful and they get raptured? Because you can pour that business right back in there. All right, so this is 11O seed bead. And it's kind of a silvery gray color. somebody called this hills and valleys, and then somebody called it stitches and ditches. And whenever I think of that, I think about snitches get stitches. So see how that's coming up like that? There's like a hole. So I'm going to fill that hole in with that bead. I picked up one bead, one of those 11 O's, and then I'm going to go through the next standy uppy bead, and I'm going to train it. I'm going to train this as I'm going. So if you have this like this and you just do this, you're going to end up with like a corona. So you want to press these down as you're doing this, like so, because it helps train the shape of the bezel. Does that make sense? William, does that make sense?
I think so.
Because if you don't, then you're going to have, it's going to be like a little solar flare. And that's not what we want. At least not for this part. So I'm training this to hold this in place. Michelle says yes. Good. And then, do you have anything else to show, William?
No, I do not. Would you show today? Did you show the things before?
I did.
That's good.
And then I showed the necklace.
Oh, that was nice.
I don't think people really liked it.
No, they hate it.
They didn't say anything.
Nobody said anything.
I don't think so.
That was pretty nice, I thought.
I thought so too. That's
Nobody
fine.
like that?
I'll throw it in the trash later.
Later.
He's gonna wear. I didn't put a clasp on it.
No, but it fits over your head.
Correct. I made that one as a wrap bracelet originally, and then I took off the clasp, and then I put that and attached it to the end of the chain.
And this one is which one is this? The
French.
The French lilac. The one that looks blue sometimes.
Yeah. Michelle says it was shimmering.
Shimmery, shiny.
All right. I'm almost done. Did you close the door?
I did close the door. That's somebody outside.
Is it?
Yeah.
Sometimes with our door, the lock doesn't catch all the time.
Who is that out there?
And then, all right. So if you're just tuning in, we're doing bead embroidery today. Like I said, it's not hard. It's just, it takes a little bit of time. Jermaine says, I think I missed a necklace when I left to text my sister. Oh, here's what it looked like.
You will throw it down.
Here, I'll do that while he's showing. Also, because of this weird angle, I can do this way faster when I'm not on camera. Like, you know how I struggled my life just now? When I'm off camera, it goes quick. Probably I'll need to go see the chiropractor because I bend my neck so aggressively. If you're in Baltimore this Friday, they're going to have the showing of they call it vitrine cases at the Baltimore Jewelry Center. William and I are going.
Oh, are we?
You're like,
oh,
surprise.
Are we?
Yeah.
That wasn't on my calendar.
I remember talking about it with you. He was like, oh yeah?
You mentioned it was happening when we were sending things there. So that's Andrew's necklace that he made, that he took hours to make.
Did it take that long?
I don't know. I was editing videos.
We did eat at like 1:30 last night.
Yeah, we ate at 1:30 in the morning.
And
that was leftovers that were just reheated. We didn't cook.
No, we were both real busy.
Yeah, I was uploading all the videos. So each one of these pendants has a video in the description on the online store.
Do y'all like that?
Is that nice? I can't do it for everything. Don't ask. But for certain things, like our special collection, the videos work, I think, pretty well to show you what they are. And so those all had to be done and edited and uploaded. And then I had to write the descriptions and figure out which picture was what color and edit the pictures to match as closely as I could to the color that the pendants actually are in person, because some of these color change pendants are not easy to get an actual picture of.
No, they're like a chameleon.
And you take a picture like this one. If you take a picture of that, this might, even in your camera, depending on the lighting, it might look very blue.
Yeah, I think if you...
In person, it's purple, y'all. You
well,
gotta put it...
French lilac.
Yeah, it is French lilac. But if you put it behind, like on a white, see how it looks more purple? And then you pull it off, and then it looks blue. It's crazy. So all my pictures were coming out blue, and I couldn't get, because it's like purple with blue undertones is what French lilac is, and it's perfectly the way that it is. But every picture I took came out like close to like that blue.
Michelle says, I shared a lot of your pics today.
Thank you. I saw that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I went crazy. I emailed, I sent text messages. We're making a big blast about this new collection. So please share. Please
hopefully
let
people
know.
like it.
We're
right, done.
Oh, that was quick.
Was it?
That was off camera.
I know. This usually takes like, I don't know, 30 minutes. It's not really, it didn't take that long. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run this thread back through there like this.
Tighten it up a little.
And tighten it up. See, William knows.
I know a little something here and there.
And we'll see how that looks.
And then you back to this one, right?
I'm going to show how to do that if we have time.
We always have time. It's our time.
It's like, it's our time to shine.
I hear you sometimes say, if we have time, I'm like, you make the time. You make the schedule.
I know, but sometimes I have to like go to the bathroom.
Or like other things happen. Look at me being in the eclipse again.
Total eclipse of the heart. Here we go.
Total eclipse of the LED light on the project.
So I'm just going around the edge here. What this is. Okay, how do you use a pendant now? Well, that's a good question. So after you tighten this business up, then you can do a lot of different things. So one thing that you can also do is, because you have an edge, right? So you have this circular shape. I also, when I'm doing this, I give myself a little extra room around my pendant, and then that way I can like add another row of something if I want to, and I think that's fun. So do you think I should add another row, or do you think that that's good?
To enclose on it more? I wouldn't enclose.
No, not enclose, because then it's going to be an eyeball like poking out. Yeah. No, on the outside. So here's another thing that is good to do. So if you've got the thread and you've got the, is to go through and work your stitches in and go, and this is kind of organic. And this is you want to tighten this up. So go through and hit that bottom row and also the top row. So that way you get, it's real nice and sturdy, because right now it's kind of loose, and it's not the end of the world that it's loose, but the more thread you use on this part now, the more it's going to be more sturdy. So that way you want that to be nice and sturdy, so that if it gets caught on something, it's not going to come loose, right? We're just going to go and use this. All right. So when we get all the way around, I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. So you need a backing. And a lot of times that backing they use is micro suede. if you don't like to use suede, is micro suede really suede, William?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm assuming that it's actual suede, but they have a synthetic, and it's nice. It's a synthetic leather, and it's a synthetic suede, which is this stuff. So it's kind of fuzzy on the back, but then it's got kind of a texture on the front. So the thing is that if you just add a loop on this, it's going to look like this on the back. And that looks, how you say, less than desirable. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get this thread out the way because we don't want this to go in the way. I'm going to get some super sharp shears out or scissors, and then I'm going to flip this every once in a while to make sure that I'm not cutting the thread, because if you cut that thread, then you have undone your work. And then, did I just cut that? No. That was close, y'all. Yeah, I felt a little bit of resistance going through, and I realized that I was cutting through something else. So again, I'm making sure I'm not trimming. If I get too close, I can kind of course correct, because that one was kind of getting close. And I want to make sure I don't cut the thread, because then it's going to all come apart, and then the sadness. No. One of my friends, and we met one time, but we're friends on the internet.
Now forever.
We took a class together, which was really fun. She said she didn't want to cry river black wait rivers. She didn't want to, if she messed up something, she said if she messed it up, she would cry rivers of bitter and black tears. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so beautiful.
With you.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And then I actually have seen people do that. They wear the mascara real thick. And then that happened. So once you trim it, see how you can see some of that white on the outside? Then just angle that so you trim it closer. Because you don't want to cut your stitches, because stitches, they help hold everything together. And then that way it's nice and covered. This is also a good excuse for you when you're doing this to make sure that you do a good job. That's another thing. Like if I had added an outside row to this, it would have been a little bit less, like, because I use that to make the peyote stitch, it pulled some of the beads up. So that edge is a little bit kind of messy. So if I did one row on the outside of this, I could have had like a cleaner row, and then it would look better. But oh well. Hindsight. Maybe you don't want a gigantor pendant. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to precisely eyeball this micro suede like so. And if you have like a pencil or something, you can, I don't know if this is going to work. That's not going to work nothing. A pencil will work, but since we don't have that.
There's a pencil. Isn't there a pencil in there?
Oh, is this it? Let's see. Yeah, see, that worked. We want this to be, we want this to have enough room on the outside, but we also want to make sure that we don't waste this material. The lacy stiff stuff is cheap. This micro suede or this synthetic leather is not as cheap. So just keep that in mind. All right, so I've got this outline. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Jermaine says, could you add the additional room now? No, not really, because I mean, maybe, but the thing is that I mean, I guess I could. Let me think about this for a second. All right, let's try it. So I'm going to do, but I didn't cut this yet. Okay. All right, I've got my working thread. I'm gonna work down and we're gonna try to do something. All right. So I've got my needle. I'm gonna go through the bottom. All right, and we're gonna do like reverse peyote. Julie says, hi, late to the party. Well, we didn't actually get that much done because this kind of takes a long time. All right, so see how there's kind of like how there it goes in and out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick up 2 of these beads and I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna skip that bead that's going up and I'm gonna go into that. See how I did that? I'm gonna pick up 2. I'm gonna skip that little ditch. Go into the next one. And that's gonna give it maybe a little bit of something so you don't see all that white. What do y'all think? I don't know. This is going to be interesting when it comes to the next part of this. So we're going to try it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, then oh well. We're just going to live and learn, and that's going to be how we're going to do it, and that's life. We are learning and growing and becoming new each day. So Jermaine says, I like it. Well, it's your idea, so no, it'll be fine. It is going to be something where we cover up. Okay, there's a couple different things we're going to do. So, do I have a Sharpie? I do have Sharpie. All right, you can be like, what's he going to use that Sharpie for? You're going to see in just one moment. Actually, we can do that now before we put a bunch of beads in the way. So here's a little trick that you can do. If you get Sharpie, you remember that scene where Julia Roberts played a hooker in the movie Pretty Woman, and she's getting ready to go out and work the night. Well, she took her Sharpie and she went over her black leather boots and got the scuff marks out. I have also used that technique. Maybe not for the lady of the evening, but yeah. So I'm just going to gently go over, try not to color on the beads, but I am getting, and it just takes that bright white off. Julie says we all have. See? I had different colored markers too because I had these red boots, and those red boots always got scuffed. I don't know what it is. I don't have red boots anymore. I feel like something's wrong with me then. But I do have red shoes. But then I get afraid that sometimes people are going to think I'm in a gang. So, the bead gang, the AG bead gang. All right. So, I colored that, and that's just going to take that bright white off. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up some more of these, and I'm going to just go around the edge. And then I'm going to cut the micro suede and or the vegan leather, whatever that's called, and vegan suede. And then I'm going to glue it. Now, generally speaking, when you glue this down, you want a flexible glue. So if you have like a white fabric glue, that also works. I unfortunately don't have any fabric. No, I don't have any fabric glue at the house. So I have some Yes Paste. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this. Yes Paste is, I use this in collage a lot. It does go glossy, so I sometimes will mix in some matte medium to take down that gloss. I love it. William, can you find a link and throw it in the chat? Or I don't know. I guess that's not possible.
What is it?
It's called Yes Paste.
Yes, Paste.
Capital with the exclamation mark. We don't sell this. This stuff I think comes from some. Can you do it from the computer?
Let me see if I can do it from my phone.
So, anyways, that's what I'm doing. I'm going all the way around the mountain. And then, anyways, so we're going to use that because I don't have any fabric glue with me. And that's gonna be what we're gonna use. But generally speaking, I use like a flexible fabric glue. And that will be nice. All right, so I'm just stitching this around. I know this is not the most interesting thing in the world right now, but you know, I think it'll be nice. Yeah, I think that looks nice. It gives it a little bit of some extra. Look at that. The little pleased as punch face. Nice. Okay. So I just am going to finish this up going all the way around. And that's basically to disguise the white. Because you could kind of see it. I mean, after we add the edging, you don't necessarily see it. With the fish that I did, with this fish, you can sometimes see the edging. However, since I painted it that glow in the dark, it doesn't look like it. So that's what that's going to be. And then once I finish this edge, I'm going to do some knots, some strategic knots, because I don't want this to fall apart. Because that would make me sad in my heart. And then I'd be like, oh no, the infinite sadness. Now, this is also, depends what you're going to do with this. If you wanted to make this into a pin, you could do that by cutting a hole. You cut actually 2 holes in the micro suede, and then you put the pin back through that. And then when you glue it down, then you have a pin. But if you're going to add a bail, then you don't need to do that. But so this is the little face, the little beaded bezel on the face. And then, so I'm going to draw this out for you. So here is a pin back mechanism. All right. So this is a pin back. So to do that, when you have your micro suede, before you glue it down, you measure your pin back on there, and then you poke a hole wherever those mechanisms stick up, and then you mark that down on your micro suede, and then you cut holes. And then when you go to glue this in place, you shimmy this part and this part into those holes, and then you glue down. Does that make sense? And then that way the glue, so the leather will come around here like this. And these go up to the holes. And then there's leather here or whatever, your vegan suede or whatever. And then that you only see the pin back and the mechanism, the closure mechanism. Isn't that clever? We're not doing that tonight though. But I thought that I would tell you this in case you're going to make pins, and then you're like, oh, that looks so shitty. So, because sometimes if you just glue stuff on the back, it looks like that. So, you know, that's a nice way to make it look like professional, because then you don't see all that glue. All right, but we're not doing that. We're going to use this. All right, so I'm going to cut this right now. And I'm going to cut it a little bit bigger than what I thought, what I drew out, because I added a little bit extra on there. So I want that to accommodate for that, right? Okay, so here's the yes paste. I learned about this in Katie DeMent's class, papermaking class. We did some collage, and this is nice. It does dry glossy, so just keep that in mind. So if you don't like that, what I do is I mix about 50% of this and 50% of matte medium, and then I use this like crusty, musty brush to paint that on, and that works really well. All right, so I got this. I'm going to take off a nice glob there. Not too much, not too little. It don't matter. All right. And then I'm going to gently put that in the middle. Work my finger. You don't have to use your finger. You can use like a popsicle stick if you want. And then scrape off the excess so that it can dry into a crust on the inside of that rim. And then wet my finger so I'm not sticky finger. Don't make that face, William. He made a horrified face of disgust.
Yeah, put the links out.
Thanks. He's like, done. All right, and then I'm going to put that in the middle, and then I'm going to press that down. Michelle says, you're silly. Thanks. And then if we weren't on the TV, so I'm going to go and rub this, not with a sticky finger, moving from the center outwards. I would let this dry. But since we are doing this live, I'm going to take my scissors and trim this. And I want to be real close to that white edge. But again, don't cut your threads because then you'll have the sadness. I would recommend to let this dry before you start trimming. By the way, hashtag by the way, do that. And then you'll have a better time in your life. The reason why is that sometimes while this is still wet and you're messing around with it, it can move. And then, because it takes a little while to dry, so it can move around, and then you end up with sticky time all the time. All right. So here we go. We're going to skip ahead. See how that happened? See that white? Oh, wow. Whatever. We're going to Julia Roberts that business. Come on over here, Sharpie. Look, you never know. See? Nobody ever knew my secret. All right. Anyways, you're actually not going to see that very much, so just keep that in mind. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is I've got this working thread still attached. In a lot of cases, I won't have any thread left over. So the thing that we're going to do is we are going to work our thread down to the edge. Let me see. Let me think about that. All right. And then I'm going to get some beads, some more beads. What color beads? The blue? Let's do the blue. That'll make our lives a little bit easier and quicker. How about that? Hopefully y'all like this, because this is like, I don't know. Y'all like this? Seed bead projects can be iffy when I show these because you don't get that like instant gratification. And it feels like we're here on the camera for about 25 hours. And then eventually people just gonna fall asleep. All right. Michelle likes it. Thanks. All right. So what I'm going to do is I've got this thread and it's coming out through the bottom of this blue bead. So I'm going to work it down to the silver bead and I'm going to go up in between this like so. All right. Let me see if I remember how to do this. All right. I picked up one bead. I know, right? All right. All right. So I've got this. Susan says, I always like watching you make things. Oh, good. Thanks. All right. So I've got this bead here. It's coming up in between those beads, right? So I'm going to angle this behind the thread. Can you see that? And push it through both your backing and your white and the black micro suede. All right. And it's going to want to sit up like this. So then what you do is you take your needle and you pass it back up through your bead, and you want to make sure that it sits where this row is sitting flat like that. And since this is kind of wet still, this is going to be interesting. All right. So I'm going to pick up a bead. I'm going to stab behind the thread and pass that through both sandwich of dark and light. And I want to make sure that when I'm doing this, that my thread, when it's coming out, it goes in between the beads and you're not going to have this great big loss of visible thread, right? So I picked up a bead. I'm going to go in between those beads. This is going underneath that thread bridge created by the outside rim. And what that's going to do is it's going to sew. It's going to be another point of attachment for your beads and your backer. So that's what that is happening. And this kind of looks a little bit funky right now. And that's because it does. And we want to make sure that we are not going to make that the more you add to it, the more beads that you add to it, then the cleaner it looks. Michelle says, I want to know if black velvet can be used instead of fake leather. Maybe. You might have to do, what's that fray check? Something that, that if it's going to come off to the edge, if it's going to be, if it's going to fray or not. So if there's any kind of possibility that there's fraying going to happen, then you'll want to treat that edge so it doesn't unravel. But Yeah. So in theory you can. I have never done it with that. A lot of these they have like a microweave on them, or they don't have a weave at all. And so that's why they're used, is because they're not going to come apart. So if you want to have something that has a weave on it, then you have to do stuff to it so that it's not going to come apart. Does that make sense? Jermaine says, I like it. I use 11 and 15 seed beads. Yeah, that would look way better. I'm not going to lie. That would look better. When you have the larger seed beads, you can see it's you just see some of the seed beading, or you see the threads and stuff. But for teaching purposes, you have to see it on camera, because otherwise it's less than ideal. So that's what happens. And what I'm doing now is I'm using my nail actually to guide the needle. And that sounds like super dangerous, like you can go underneath your nail. But if you feel pain, then stop. One person, they're like, what happens if your something catches on fire? And then it's like, turn off the gas. Like, or what if you start cutting yourself, then stop. Don't just keep going. But I guess like if you're in shock or whatever. Now, sometimes if your glue dries really hard, this part can be a little bit tricky, because um it, if the glue dries too hard, then it can be hard to pass your needle through. So sometimes what would be handy is if you have your pliers on hand, and then that way you can pull the needle through if it gets stuck. So does that make sense? Norma says, seems like velvet wouldn't have enough body to it. Sure would be pretty though. It might be worth experimenting with. Yeah, I think it could. I think it could be interesting. Amy does a lot of this work. Amy, have you ever used velvet for the backing of one of these? I know you've worked with Kinga and stuff. I don't know what Kinga uses for the backing of her pieces. Michelle says, I have lots of it. Yeah, test it out. See how it works. Post it in the triers group. So this is again a part of the time when we just like start talking about stuff, because I'm just repeating the same thing and going all the way around. And the cool thing is that once you finish this, you have basically the foundations of brick stitch. So anything that you want to do with brick stitch, you can do on this, because you have your thread bridges exposed. So you can, if you want to bead into that, or you want to make anything kind of like a brick stitch off of that, you can do that. Also, brick stitch is kind of related to peyote stitch. So if you wanted to do peyote stitch on top of that, you can also do peyote stitch on top of that. So I think that's a really great foundation, so that if you didn't want to make just like a circular disc, you have options about what you can do, how to finish this off. So if you didn't want to just have like a pendant or whatever, then you could make it into like a ring or a bracelet or whatever. So you could make it into like a beaded ring. Or if you wanted to add like a fringe on this, on the outside edge of that could be cute. And add like a fringe. We're talking about fringe earlier. You could add fringe off of that. That could be like, if you did it like in sun colors, that could look like a little solar eclipse. Solar eclipse of the heart. I don't know. That sounds ridiculous, but oh well. So that's what we're doing. We're just working our way through. This is a little bit tougher to sew through, because it is a little bit of a stiffer material, but it's not taking too long, I don't think. And the only thing that I'm going to be kind of worried about here is making sure that I don't go too close to the edge, especially if it's in a material that can kind of fray, because then I'll pull that off. But there's this cool pattern that goes around the edge of this. If you look closely, you can kind of see it. Now, if you do any of this, please share it in the Allegory Gallery Design Challenge group, and because I'd love to see if anybody does this. It's always, you never know if what you do is going to resonate with other people. So it's always nice when people, they share what they made. Or if you use this tutorial, then if you could, let folks know that that's how you learn how to do it, that'd be great also. Jermaine says, did you do this edging on the fish? Yes. So I could take my Sharpie and color. I actually use my Identa pen. And I use white. Did I use white thread? No, I use a black. The smoke. So that's what it looks like. And then depending on how I want to do this, I was thinking I was going to make two sides of this. And then I would sew them together. Like just bind the brick stitch together. And then that way, if it's like, either that, but this looks almost like I kind of want to wear this as a pin, but I don't know how I'm going to finish this off. So, but that's how you finish off this so that you don't end up with this kind of like Oreo look on the side. And the once you get this stitch down, you get this outside row, then you can go back through it and tighten it up, and it looks pretty good from that outside edge, right? I think it does. I think it gives a little bit of a nice polished look. So we're about halfway through, a little bit more. And if you have an even edge, like if you just run a row of beads through it, it is a little bit quicker going. So right now I kind of have a weebledy wobbledy edge, and so that's why it's taking a little bit longer to do it. But if you have an even edge on the edge of your beaded bezel, it goes really fast, So that's something also to think about. Michelle says, looks great. Thanks. And I hope I don't run out of thread. If I run out of, I'm getting close to the edge here of where I'm running out close to the end of the thread. I may have to add thread, which is not the end of the world. Sometimes that's a mixed blessing, I feel, because when you have to add thread, it adds an extra point of where it can be another thread. So what I mean by that is like if you work one continuous thread and it pulls, sometimes what happens is it will like all come undone. But if you have multiple threads, if it pulls, then that one section comes out instead of the whole thing. And as you weave those ends in, it strengthens your piece up and makes it a little bit sturdier, which I think is good. You know, the more passes you make in this, the more sturdy it is. So that's also something to think about. Now, if you're real particular and you want all of your stitches to line up perfectly even, you could probably draw on a line and like pencil or something and have all your stitches go into that line. And I'm sure it would make a really beautiful edge. But because I'm using the smoke colored thread and it's black, the micro suede is black on the back, you can't really see it. So it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter. I know that sounds terrible, but it's true. You don't really see it. So if one of my stitches is a little bit longer and then one of them is a little bit shorter, it's not like it's gonna matter. It's also on the back too. So the only one who's gonna know about it is you. So if it bothers you, then I would definitely kind of work in a way that makes it easier for you. But if it doesn't bother you, because it doesn't bother me, then I don't really care. But if it is something that you're like, oh, I want all my stitches to be exactly the same, then, you can do that in your life. You have the power to do anything. Well, almost anything. All right. So, right now, I'm just almost finishing up. So it doesn't seem like it. I may even get away with not having to add more thread, which, would be nice. If I do end up adding thread, it's not the end of the world and actually may make a stronger piece. So, but I don't want to have to add it if I don't have to, you know. All right, we're coming up on the 2.5 hour mark of how long we've been going live right tonight. And yeah, I've enjoyed spending time with you this evening. Hopefully, you all had a good night. And that if you haven't done this before, that you learned something. If you have done this before, maybe you still learn something because I probably do it differently than other people. I always like to see when other people do stuff that I do, the similar stuff that I do, because everybody does stuff differently. And sometimes that's how you learn how to do I don't know, do other things. Soldering, there are people who do soldering so different than I do. And I always think it's fascinating. Like I sometimes take classes and the people they have experience doing something, so they kind of just check out and then they go and start doing their own thing. But for me, I kind of want to see how other people are doing it. So that's kind of like where my brain's at. All right. So we're coming up to the end. Got one more bead. Generally speaking, if if the gap is kind of close, then you'll want, if it's too close, then just pull that tight. But since that's kind of a wide gap, I am going to go and add one more bead. Norma says, I really like how it turned out. I learned this a long time ago, but had forgotten details of how to do it. Yeah, the thing is, I do a lot of different things, and so sometimes I forget. Like, somebody was like, how do you do this? And I was like, let me go and look at the notes. All right, so I reached the end of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this bead, which is the first bead in the row that I added, and I'm going to go up through the last bead that I added, and then I'm just going to tie this off. So I'm going to take this and go underneath that thread bridge. And I'm going to make a knot. And I'm going to do that on the other side. Sometimes, okay, I'm running low on thread here. All right. So this is kind of one of those things where it's like, it gets kind of hinky. And I don't like to seed bead when I don't have enough thread, because I feel like it takes way longer and it's less fun than if you just have the thread. So sometimes if I start running low on thread, I'll thread my needle through where I want to go, and then I'll thread my needle, and then I'll use the back end of my needle instead of the front part, and that will also help. So you don't have to, if the tail of your thread is real short, that's how you kind of get away with it. And then, when I was first beading, I was real thrifty with my materials. And like, I still am to a degree, but I was like real thrifty. And so I want to use every centimeter of beading wire or whatever. And I used to drive myself crazy because I would have like these little short, stumpy things to work with. And then I'd be like, oh my gosh, I have to make this work. And I'd spend like an hour trying to do something where if I just gave myself a little bit more thread or a little bit more beading wire, it would go so much faster and I could be done in like 23 seconds as opposed to an hour. Like I'd be struggling my heart, like my life away, trying to get that one crimp tube at the end. I don't know if you've ever experienced that or not, but you'd be struggling. And then if you just gave yourself an inch or two more, then you'd be done. All right, done. So here's a finished little moon face or sun face. And I'm going to kind of like mess with it so that all of the ends kind of work. So that spreads it out and makes it look nice. The glue's still wet, so just be mindful of that. So there's that. And if you wanted to make a pendant, you could sew a bail on the top, make a little peyote stitch tube, and add that to the top there. Or you could make a loop, a beaded loop, if you wanted. But you have all this brick stitch, or you have this all these thread bridges. See how that is? I could have done this edge a little bit tighter, but oh well, whatever. And so you have all these opportunities. So if you wanted to go back over and add like a little picot stitch to the edge, that'll hide some of those imperfections also. I could get those daggers out. Let me get those daggers real quick. So I have all these little daggers. And these are these mercury glass finish ones. And I could sew these on easy peasy. What do y'all think about that? Or is that too on the nose? And go all the way around. And then it would look like a little sun. I think it would look better with like a contrast. Jermaine says she does like the edge of the silver. Yeah, I think that looks good. You did a good job. Good call. So with the designing, let me see if I can lower this. We could add an outside edge of these silver daggers. And then also have this white. That would look kind of cool. In theory, I could use both. I have these little itty bitty ones, but they're in this like weird. I might use these in the green, man. That would look good. And put those coming off the edge of that. And yeah, fix a little mustache. Or I could do like a red. That would look cool. And be 4th of July up in here. That's fine. Or these ones. These are trippy. These are these ones that have this kind of like other glaze. They're kind of shorter though, and a little bit wider. So I don't know. I'm just messing around. But that is an opportunity to do that. Also, if you make little art dolls or stuff like that, then you can sew this on. You know, sometimes like the art dolls, you don't necessarily like, I don't know. This will be good to like, you can sew this on to, if you did that, you wouldn't necessarily need to put the backing on. Though I do think it adds that nice kind of finished edge, and it has a lot of places that you can sew that on. So if you made like a fabric doll, you could sew this on, and it would be so easy because you have all those areas where it can be stitched. So there you go. So we did a bead embroidery bezel. And then depending on how you want to finish that, you could add a bail, or you can add whatever. I think this would be so cool. I kind of regret that I didn't make this into a pin, but I can always make another one. Because that looks kind of, I like it. It has a nice like pin feeling to it, like a brooch. And then I think I would have maybe done the outside edge in a different color. This blue edge, maybe black, because it looks like a lot of blue. But you know, that's life. You figure things out as you go. All right, so I'm not gonna flip the camera around. I'm just gonna go. But thank you so much. If you didn't see these, the lusters are in the online store. That's allegorygallery.com. If you want, I'm not gonna do. I may make some kits with some of these mother of pearl shapes. And William is going to add the lacy stiff stuff and the needles and the glue and stuff to the online store either tonight or tomorrow. And if you like sequins, you could do sequins on the edge. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate all of you out there in the hashtag AGBeadFam. Hopefully you have a great rest of your evening. I'm going to go cook some dinner, and there we go, and get back to work. So have a great night, everybody. See ya.